Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanis Coughlin. I am the founder of Twillow Lifestyle Community and the Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Jurkofsky.
Hi all, I am Jennifer Jurkofsky. I am a practitioner and teacher with Twillow Lifestyle, as well as practitioner with My Holistic Self Counselling.
So we are excited today. We have just had a discussion earlier about the transits that are in place. Did you want to share a snapshot of that, Jen? Some of the human design transits that are here.
Sure. Yeah, we were talking about the transits actually, and I admittedly I am not. I'm not very good at reading all of that and everything. But it was interesting as I pulled it up, recognizing that, the transits that were showing up for Tanis and I also had shown up in some other charts that I had looked at. And so I started to just pull them and realized, okay, this is just what it is right now. This isn't specifically to us.
Which it could have been, but in this
it could have been,
it's not,
because there are times where there are things that were, are in our process, and then there are times that are kind of universal. But this was much more of a universal one, and it was interesting because it was of transitoriness, and so kind of looking at that, we're looking at, emotional manifesting channel. This is really where we begin to try to maybe defy logic's caution. We might be overstepping some of the restrictive patterns that we normally have in place. And so, just kind of taking the time to ride the emotional waves right now, because there's a lot in the transit right now that is very much seeking something new, seeking something different, wanting a bit of change or adventure. And so just being really careful as you go, because there is a lot of not worrying about the consequences in the air right now. And so just kind of paying attention to what's coming up for you. When you have those kind of seize the moment, impulsive, okay, let's just do it. Maybe just take a moment and go, okay, is this really what I'm going to want down the road? Is this really going to be what's best for me? And it might be yes. And you might finally have the energy to actually seize the moment and go for something that you've been holding yourself back from. And that might be a beautiful blessing. But also just be mindful that if you do get a no, you want to maybe just take a step back and go, hold up. Maybe this is just the moment and wanting this new adventure, but it won't actually be good for me as we go. So,
right. Cautionary tale. Tap into the intuition before you make any large decisions. Okay. Mm-hmm. We were talking about, okay, it's time for a big adventure. Okay, what kind of adventure are we going to do? And then we're like, wait a minute. We start reading it a little further.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the gates that are in this transit have to do with seeking, wanting new knowledge, wanting new understanding of self. And so all of this can be beautiful, and there can be really creative ways of bringing that in.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's important that we honor, our long-term goals as well in this process.
Because we are here as a learning experience. So, humans, we all make mistakes, and sometimes that's how we learn. So anyway, it can be a very positive experience to have this kind of energy, as long as we are stepping into what our heart wants in the big picture is what it is, right? So, yes.
Yeah.
Have fun with boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing, right? In this time right now, you might very much say, I'm going to just throw caution to the wind. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes we need to do that, and there's something meant for us in that. Just again, there's a big emotional wave with all of this. So just be mindful of that and throwing caution to the wind. How's that wave going to turn out? Are you going to be able to ride it? Are you going to be able to surf it? Or are you going to get crushed by it? Right? Just
no, we don't want
take
that.
a minute and see, allow yourself to ride a bit of the wave before you make any lasting decisions.
Right. We have a bunch of planets in retrograde, as our beautiful friend Michelle from Astrological Tarot, who's here. Hey, Michelle. Would also tell us.
Yeah, Michelle could talk to this way better than I can. I'll just put that out there. Props to Michelle.
And if you want more information on that, like Michelle and I are doing our Wednesday show at 7 o'clock
Definitely
on live. So please join us for that, where we actually do more of this type of predictory stuff. But we just thought it was an interesting thing to bring it up today, because we happen to be having a conversation about it. That's all. So as is typical on Twillow Talk, we pick a card from this deck, Diana Cooper and Greg Stewart Wisdom deck, the wisdom cards. So we usually pick a topic and then we discuss it. So shall we do that, Jen?
Let's do that.
All right. What do we have on tap for today? So it's kind of fun because we've actually been through probably half of the deck now, which is pretty exciting. So we'll have to start again, I guess, at some point, or find a new deck.
Find a new one.
Yeah.
Or we could just throw caution to the wind. What do you guys want us to talk about?
We could. Oh, here is an excellent topic for this week.
Okay.
All right. We got self-worth.
Ooh.
Very interesting for today, and my camera doesn't want to focus in on it. Self-worth dependent on other people's feedback is fragile, for it is only when you know yourself that you begin to recognize your true value. Be confident and steadfast. Acknowledge you are an amazing being and develop deep self-respect so that you become your number one fan. This internal club of one is more powerful than millions on the outside. Wisdom prompts you to recognize the extraordinary in yourself. Then you will also see what is special in others and the universe. Your experience of life will be transformed. So the affirmation, everything is perfect and I am perfect. So that kind of goes with one of my favorite sayings. We are perfectly imperfect as humans. Perfectly imperfect. Mm-hmm. So,
and it goes into some of mine too.
Mm-hmm.
I love, know thyself and to thine own self be true. Those are two of my favorites, and that is very much ingrained in what was just said in those cards.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I want to say hello to Margie, who's joined us as well. Welcome. And anyone else who's on, if you'd like to pop on and say hello, we would love to hear from you. There's Sandra. Awesome. Thank you.
If you're on mine, I'm just going to put this note out because we did it. If you are on any of my channels, please say hi. If we don't say hi back, pop over to one of Tanis's channels and say hi if you can, because what's wrong with mine, but the messages don't seem to be showing up. I see them after the fact. So I don't want to do that as we move forward. So if you do say hi and we don't respond because we're not wanting to, it's just because we're not seeing it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And we have a Facebook user that said, hi, Tanis, hi, Jennifer. It's not coming through who that is. So if you are on one of our channels, it looks like it's Facebook, of course, because it says Facebook user. So that could be that it's in. Oh, there we go. There's some help, Jen. Have you disabled the kids setting?
I will take a look. I didn't know there was a kid setting to have enabled in the first place. Maybe we can connect after and you can let us know. But there is a whole bunch of Facebook users coming through. So I'm not sure if that's a possible or not.
It could be on yours. I don't see too many comments going on mine here. Sandra's on mine and Margie. There is probably also on the Twillow one. Let's see on here. Okay. So Gilda is on saying hi, Tanis and Jennifer. Julie is on saying hi, Tanis. Helena, hello. Uh, good to see you. Hello, Margie
Hey,
says.
Margie says,
Yes.
Tess, you must be on mine. Woo woo! I think it
Yay.
worked.
We fixed it.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
It worked,
It's
Margie. Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Cool. So back to self-worth.
Yes, self-worth. We are
I
not
love
judging our
it.
self-worth on whether our Facebook is working on live or not.
Not at all. Not at all. You know, it's an interesting thing because I talk a lot with clients about self-worth and the idea that, you know, how often do we value ourselves based on how other people respond to us or how they relate to us or the things that they say to us.
Yeah.
And how we can quickly, at you know, the very first kind of comment there on the card about how quickly we can, you know, devalue ourselves the moment there is something that somebody else does or says that triggers us to question our value, right?
Mhm.
And how important it is to really know ourselves. And that's to know, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? The shadow work piece, to know every bit of who we are and to honor that and to hold that and to hold space for that. Because only then can we really authentically move forward in a way that isn't constantly swayed by everybody around us and how they react to us or perceive us at any given moment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how many times do we do that? It's a big part of our programming because we're
Mhm.
brought up with that, with socializing, right? In order for us as kids to be socialized, it's like that's not, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Um, and you tend to, or that's a bad thing to do, or, and of course, if we're not, if as parents we aren't aware that it is important to be like, that's a bad thing to do, not that you're bad, then you start to internalize the harder stuff. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of suffer with that sort of self-esteem stuff is, they've internalized being told they're bad instead of whatever they were doing was maybe not the best choice, right? But the programming has been like that in society, or our society anyway, in North America, you know, forever. And so breaking that programming is really what our job is, right? As we move forward, how do we change that kind of programming as a society so that people aren't feeling like they're bad? Because really, we're all just here to learn. I mean, yeah, we might make poor choices, but it doesn't make us internally like a bad person, right? We are not a bad person because we make poor choices. There's a difference there.
I wanna take it even further though, because you know, with my work with the Enneagram, which I know I haven't talked as much about lately in these, but
Mm-hmm.
the Enneagram is it's a personality um, tool that you can use, and it has the 9 archetypes. But the whole kind of premise behind it is the defense mechanisms and the worldviews and all of the things that we develop, right? All of the conditioned parts of us that kind of show up to try to keep us safe and to try to help us navigate this world. And one of the things in studying that came up was this idea of how do I feel value? And
Mm-hmm.
most of the time we have certain, and I'll have to get the book to actually reference the author who talks about this, but he talks about how we have these 3 kind of main lies that we tell ourselves. One is I am valuable because of what I have. One is I'm valuable because of what I do. And one is I'm valuable because of, I think it's like how I show up or something like that. But the idea here is that we we find our value in something external as opposed to finding our value as an intrinsic part of who we are. I am valuable because I am.
Right.
and how important that concept is. It's not about what I can do for you, what I can offer you, or what kind of, way that I can show up for you. I have value,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And that's where that self-worth comes in, is really being able to transition from that external to that internal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that Michelle has a great comment here too, right? No one can know their own beauty or perceive a sense of self-worth until it's been reflected back to them, because we do all mirror each other, right? So in the mirror of another loving, caring human being, love heals. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? We mirror each other. So the more we can put love and kindness out, like what Christina is saying. Hi, Christina. Kindness is so important to ourselves and others. And being kind to others is being kind to ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Because if we aren't kind to others, then it has an effect on us. It's
Yes.
not just the karma, as Michelle would bring. I'm sure she's thinking that, but it's also about, you know, um, all of that other stuff, that internal, like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't, it doesn't feel good when you're not nice to other people. We tend to not feel good about that, and so
But this is too where knowing our self-worth is so important, because we're not going to always be faced with people who are going to mirror our kindness back to us. There
this
are
is
times
true.
we are going to be faced with people who are going to show us things that are not what we're portraying, and it isn't a mirror. And we have to, in that moment, also decide, how do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And
Yeah.
knowing our self-worth is the part that gives us strength to be able to actually move forward and say, you're being mean. I'm not going to mirror that. I am not going to go there. I'm
Right.
going to stay in kindness, and I'm going to stay in love anyway.
And that's where the whole healing path is about reducing the triggers, because your triggers are what sort of, when you're triggered, you're mirroring that back, right? You're mirroring that, and we all have them, guys. Like, we all do. That's part of being human. So it's about learning how to cut down on the triggers so there's less of it for you, right? And that's the
Yeah.
healing path. That's getting to know yourself. What are your triggers? And we're not responsible for anybody else's actions or reactions, but we are
Yeah.
responsible for our own. So in being responsible for our own, really knowing that we
Yeah.
are love, and we can bring that no matter what the situation is. And the more
Definitely.
we can bring compassion to a situation and love to a situation, the more we can transform it, right? So that's like that spiritual alchemy that we talk about.
Yeah. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Margie, the quote about our actions becoming our biology energy. I'm not sure, Tanis, if you know exactly what that quote is, but what comes to mind for me is the idea that our beliefs control our bodies, our minds, and our lives. And so what we
Okay.
believe becomes our experience.
Yes.
Um, but I don't know if it's an actual, like, specific quote that you're thinking of.
Yeah,
um,
I'm not aware of that one, but the one that you're talking about, Jen, I've heard before, right? Your thoughts become
yeah.
your actions become
Mhm.
your reality, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
But I mean, looking from a very scientific kind of standpoint, if you look into any kind of studying of the autonomic nervous system, polyvagal theory, all of that kind of stuff, there is actually science that shows us that we rewire our brain based on things that we go through. And so
Right.
we have to, and our body shows evidence of that rewiring. And so physically things show up in our body, and we're holding that energy of the emotions and the thoughts and all from those experiences. And so there is a process there where we have to, not only change the thought in that time, but really work on understanding the emotion and not holding on to it, but understanding the message that it brings, and then reworking through the body, because the body keeps score. we there's books and all about this, and so it's such an important piece to be able to, again, know ourselves, right, and know what's going on inside of us at any given moment.
Yeah, just that speaks to that book by Louise Hay, right? You can heal your body. So in that book, it's pretty cool. It talks about like what the body part is that's affected, what it is that the issue is, and it gives you an affirmation to use in order to sort of work through that sort of piece of it. And so Michelle added this as well. So true, Janice. Triggers can cause anger, resentment, and jealousy. Our reaction doesn't change the heart of others, but it does affect our own heart. Took me a while to digest that. Yeah, thank you. And it looks like you got what Margie meant in your explanation.
Awesome. Well, and I think that this is such a key aspect to really reflect on. And actually, Tanis and I were having a conversation earlier today about just the idea of the power that we hold. And I talk to clients so much about, that self-knowledge, that self-awareness actually makes us really, really powerful. And in the process of healing, that can be really scary, because we come to a place where we realize that we are actually responsible for how we're feeling at any given moment. Mm-hmm. And even though that is an incredibly powerful thing, it is an incredibly scary thing, right? Yeah. Because at that moment, we're faced with, crap, like, what do I do now? Right? And
what have I been doing to myself, right? Because we're creating our own reality.
Actually move forward. And so when we look at self-worth, a big piece of that is forgiving ourselves. And I think the Ho'oponopono is such a huge aspect of that, because it really is ultimately about self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
And we can use it with others and all, but the basis of it and the tradition of it is forgiving ourselves for what we put ourselves through, for the beliefs that we've held that have caused us pain, and for the ways that we have shown up that have not honored who we want to be, and who we know we are.
Yeah. The ultimate in self-responsibility is accepting responsibility and doing the work, right? Which is part of our healing journey. And we will never be done as long as we are here. So please don't be under the impression that, oh, if I do all this work right now, I'll be done. It doesn't work that way. It's a lifelong mission.
So, it's a lifelong mission.
Many lifelong mission, as a matter of fact. Some of us are slow learners and have been here numerous times. In numerous forms.
Yeah.
Pop? Margie said pop. I think she just had a mind blow thing.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a tough one, right? So the Ho'oponopono is always a big tool that I use as well for that self-responsibility piece, because it is so heavy when you realize that, right? When you do need to start to take responsibility for your emotions in a situation, for instance. Like what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
You can't blame somebody else for how you don't make me feel some way. And yet we have that belief, right? You're making me angry. Well, not really.
So I want to use an example that's light enough and hopefully not too triggering for anybody. I was telling Tanis about this earlier, which is kind of part of the conversation we were having, but I was out last night. I was sitting in the car. Somebody banged the door of the car I was sitting in like of their car into, they banged their door into the car I was sitting in. And I just kind of was like, what in the world just happened? And I opened the door, and immediately were like, what? I think you just hit the car. No. The driver, no, we didn't. And I was like, okay, well, I felt it and I heard it, Just want to make sure that the car's okay. So the person in the backseat who was the one who banged it, was like, well, there's nothing wrong with the door. Okay, cool.
Great.
There's nothing wrong with the door. And it became this like whole big thing where they were like yelling at me and cursing at me. And I'm just like, what on earth is going on? And I just kind of let it go. And what was interesting in that moment when we're talking about this idea of, how we show up and all, like there is a piece of me that was like, whew, I could feel the heaviness of it in that moment. And I could feel the energy from that other person. And at that point, I had an option. I had a choice. I could take that on and I could own that. And I could let that ruin my night, the rest of the night, maybe days later. Or I could go, whew, you're going through some stuff, not my stuff. I'm not going to own that. I'm going to hold space for love and kindness because that's who I want to be and that's who I know I am.
Right.
But it's really hard in that moment, right? And so I think that the more we do our own work and the more we know who we are and who we want to be, the more we recognize that pause moment where we have a choice and we can go, okay, I could either feed into this right now and get really mad. And I know that this other person was, by the way that they were yelling at me, was very much impacted and blaming me for them being upset. Even though I hadn't yelled at them or anything. But it was very clear that like that was the road that they were choosing to go down and how easy it could have been for me to also choose that road. Right.
Yeah.
And I just think that it was a good example of finding the pause, taking that breath and going, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yes.
I'm okay.
Just gonna use that term. Not my circus, not my monkeys. That's their monkeys.
And move forward.
Yeah. And I think that the more we can work on those triggers and release the triggers within with things like the Ho'oponopono, the easier it is for you to find that pause. So, part of the process is there's going to be those times where afterwards you go, oh, shouldn't have reacted to that. Then the next time you might still react, but right away you're like, oh, I'm going to stop this in the middle rather than taking it to the full extent as you did the last time. And then the next time you might be like, okay, I'm not going to react to this, right? And then finally, after some reprogramming, you start to be like, okay, I'm going to take that pause. I'm not going to react to this. But, it takes time, and we need to forgive ourselves for taking that time or allow ourselves that time to learn. Because like Michelle says here, being physically incarnated is the curriculum. The purpose of this course is to awaken us from the illusion that we are the incarnation. Spiritual practices are tools to help us accomplish these goals. Followed up with earth class is hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, it can
it
be.
is.
It's heavy, right? It's dense. We're in a physical world when, our energy is our true self in a way, right? Like our energetic spiritual being, which is this energy that enlivens these lovely meat suits that we wear. That we call bodies. That energy is really our true self, right? And that is of love, and that is high vibration. So that would be, our true self. And if we can stay focused on that and being in that higher vibration, it helps us to move forward. But it does take some learning on our part. There's a Jen, that would be a great class, dealing with daily triggers.
Yep.
So Michelle is a teacher with us as well with the Twillow Lifestyle Academy. So she's dealing with daily triggers. Your car door experience is a great example of how to handle those negative energies. Exactly. Yeah. And building in a practice around that. I could actually see that like a 1 hour
workshop
class.
on that one.
for a couple of weeks, right? So you practice in between and come back and regroup.
Mm-hmm.
So it encourages that self-development piece of learning how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great
Well,
idea,
and this
Michelle.
is the
Thank
whole thing, right? We come back to our worth,
you.
and we are worth the investment of the time, of the work,
Mhm.
right? To do the meditative practices, to do that, taking the breath. We are, and that is such an important piece to understand.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. But if we don't feel that we're worth it, do we step into
Mm-hmm.
that? Right. And it's kind of it becomes, and that's the difficult part of starting this sort of healing journey, right? Because many times people start and they don't feel worthy of taking the time to invest in learning, to invest in healing, to invest in themselves, whether
Yeah.
it's through meditation or classes or healing, sessions with people, or we often don't feel like we're worthy of spending the money or, spending the time, which is an even bigger commodity these days, right? And yet we are super worthy, but it's that chicken and the egg thing. Where do you
Yeah.
start? Do you start to try and feel worthy, or do you start some of these practices? So it's really, we encourage, just jump into a practice because you have to start somewhere. So
Yeah.
whatever you feel comfortable to start, whether it's taking 5 minutes out of your day to go for a little walk, that little bit of self-care helps you to start to feel worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So got Michelle's husband.
Tell him I love it.
Jonathan says, you can call the class target shooting. Think before you pull the trigger.
I
Awesome,
love
Jonathan. That's great.
it. I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, we have another comment here from Facebook user. Love listening to you both. Great conversation. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. It's awesome to have you all here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about the chicken and the egg, and you talk about, what do we do first? And, there's all of these kind of things out there, like act as if and all of that. And I think that there is some validity to them in the sense that every spiritual teaching from all of the different religions out there, they all have what is I want to say the Sharia, but that's one particular religion, but they all have the discipline phase,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't matter which one it is. There's certain disciplines that are kind of the foundation. And it doesn't mean that you always have to live in that discipline, but it's about getting into the habit of,
Yes.
right? And what we do forms habits, and what we do conditions us. And so we're already conditioned in so many ways, and we already have so many habits. And I think at some point we have to say, okay, is this serving me? And if it's not serving me anymore, what do I need to do differently?
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as that, right? And then we try something new. Okay, is this serving me? Yes, I'm going to keep doing it. No? Okay, I'm going to try something else,
Yeah.
right? We just baby steps, but take the steps.
That's right. Yeah. Taking the steps and starting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So important.
It's so important, you know.
So we have a number of people on. What kind of things do you do that make you feel worthy, that increase your self-worth? What kind of things do you do in your practices that help you to feel worthy? That's what I would like to ask. We have another beautiful comment here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. It's our pleasure. Mhm.
Well, as we wait for some sharing, I know for me, I make these comments about this work. It's been a long process
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of times in my life where I definitely did not feel worthy of life, let alone anything else. And, sometimes even just, reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, I just need to talk this one through. Being there for somebody else and being able to, support in that way. Sometimes it's, that's all I got today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And learning to honor every little success as a big success.
That's key.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and moving forward in that way.
for sure. So Michelle says, starting the day with mantras and breath work. Absolutely. And there's some wonderful mantras about self-care in various traditions, right? Or to increase that self-worth, I should say, right? Calling in, who do you call in? That sort of thing. Another user here says self-care, meditation, salt baths, time in nature, and connecting with animals. Absolutely. Absolutely. Self-care is key in starting to show yourself that self-worth. Yeah, those are great forms of it, indeed. Oh, aw, thank you. This one, listening to podcasts like yours and engaging in hobbies that I'm passionate about, like painting and making jewelry. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cute. Jonathan and I do mantras and yoga together. It's so freaking romantic. Yes, that is.
Yes, it is. That is
It is when
amazing.
you can share that journey, for sure, right?
Mm,
You help each other feel that self-worth when
yeah.
you're doing that.
Yeah. And the thing is, yes, having somebody else is so wonderful. And it is really, really helpful. But I also know that there are times in life, and I've lived through them, where you feel utterly alone.
Yeah.
And you can still find your worth in that.
Mm-hmm.
It takes work. It's not easy. But you have to make the decision to start to make that change and to stand up and to set boundaries and to honor what you need. And as you start to do that for yourself, the universe does respond.
It does. Yeah. Here's another one. Listening to inspiring music and singing along, and using my service dog for tactile grounding. Yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. For sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I had something and it's gone. Oh, it'll come back.
That's
It
okay.
left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think though, as far as practices go, there are
Mm-hmm.
certain things that are kind of foundational. And I liked what Michelle said about starting a morning with a practice, because even in mindfulness and things like that, there is that idea of, if we do a gratitude journal, whatever it is that you do, this idea of
That was
setting
the
my
thought.
intention,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so every day you get up, name something you're grateful for, you set the intention for the day, and then you move forward. And it can be as simple as that.
It can. When you're really struggling, sometimes finding something you're grateful for is all you're able to do at that time. But it can help turn around the energy for the day. So, just like Sandra says, she commits herself every day to start her day with gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And that was what I remembered what I was going to do, or what I was going to say. And what I often do with my clients is that I ask them to not only do a gratitude journal, but also do 3 things they're proud of themselves for. So I invite them to do 3 things they're grateful for every day, and 3 things they're proud of themselves for, because that's that celebration of successes, right? It helps you to realize, oh yeah, okay. And it doesn't have to be big, right? There could be a day where you just getting out of bed was a success for that day, and that's okay, but celebrate it, right? Be proud of yourself for it, and give gratitude for the day, and it really does make a difference.
Yeah, I
And
love
Jen
that.
has a comment for you, or
Oh,
Jen, Michelle has a comment for you, Jen.
mm-hmm. So true, Jen. I didn't
Beautiful.
attract light workers that you this in my life until I did years of self-reflection and inner work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I
Oh,
think we were all on that track, right? Uh,
mm-hmm.
None of us have been in the same vibratory space our whole lives, right? We've all done the
Thank
the
God.
work, and we had to go through what we've been through to bring us where we are today. So, we've all been very different. Um, so we're with you, Michelle. It's all about divine timing, right? We all met at the right time
Yep.
and become connected for the right reasons at the right time in our journeys.
Mhm.
So super
Yeah.
super glad to have you on our journey.
I'm thinking of the meme, and I'm sure everybody has seen it because it's been around forever. But it's a caterpillar and a butterfly sitting at a table together, and the caterpillar says to the butterfly, "You've changed," and the butterfly's like, "Yeah, we're supposed to."
Yes.
Right?
There's times when, on that journey in the what do they call it? The dark night of the soul, right?
Mm.
Where my clients will come and they'll be like, I'm on this path and I've started my path, but now I'm losing all my friends and my relationships are changing, and I'm facing a job change, and there's all of this change and I don't know if I can manage it, right? And maybe I shouldn't have changed because everything else around me is changing now. Well,
Mhm.
that is a perfect meme for that, right? They almost feel that guilt because they've changed themselves and now everything else doesn't feel right. But we're meant to. We're truly meant to become,
Mhm.
not just to become.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've lived that experience,
Mhm.
right? Where everything falls away and you start over, and
Yeah.
not always just once. And
Yeah.
right? And it's part of the journey. And we talk about all of this, and we talk about having our self-worth, and we talk about the spiritual journey that we're on. And I think sometimes we have this tendency to think that well, if I do all of this work, I'm going to have a great material picture. It's not about the material picture.
No,
It's about the inner workings of
that's
who
right.
we are, not about the external experience. And yes, the external experience will ebb and flow, but it's not about making the external picture look better. It's really about painting a beautiful internal picture that carries with us no matter what's going on around us.
That's right. Because what we think is beautiful on the outside can change,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's all about our expectations. And our expectations change as you go on this journey and you become more aware of that inner self.
Mm-hmm.
The expectations of what we expect of others, of what we expect of ourselves, of what we expect of our environment. The boundaries that we put up need to change,
Yeah.
sometimes more,
Yeah.
as we become more sensitive or more aware of things around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's another one from Michelle. I relocated a giant horned green caterpillar from the end of the road on a tree to a tree on my walk today. We had to leave the apartment because the fire alarms went off, so the timing was pretty symbolic. Yes, no doubt. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. I think the biggest way that we can honor our self-worth is to have compassion for ourselves
Yeah.
and know that we are on a journey
Mhm.
and that we are ever changing. And sometimes we are that caterpillar on the side of the road, and somebody needs to come pick us up and put us to safety. And
And that's
sometimes we're
okay.
able to get there, and both are okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And that it's all part of the journey. And, wherever we are at any given moment, we're where we need to be as long as we're moving.
yeah. This is cute. So the divine, like a fire alarm, jars us out of our daily routine to make room for change. Yes, it
Yeah.
often can,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
right?
and we won't change if everything's comfortable. We
That's right.
won't.
It's
What's
human nature.
what's the point of making change if we're content the way things are?
Yeah.
And so we need that. We need that alarm to go off. We need something to happen to kind of get us moving along.
And we're never the same person 2 days in a row. Because anytime you learn something, you change.
Mm-hmm.
It may be very subtle, but there's a change. And every day we learn something new about ourselves, about somebody else, about our environment, about how we deal with our environment. Every day we learn something new.
Yeah. Every interaction, every energy flow, all of it.
Yeah.
It's always impacting us.
Yeah. The
And
only
get
way
into
you
the
know.
science of all of it. But then I'll geek out.
Okay, science girl. Go ahead.
Right? Quantum entanglement, the idea that when two objects meet, they impact each other, and that
Yeah.
impact is forever lasting. It doesn't matter how far apart they go, that impact will always be there. And so, everything we do, everybody we encounter, every interaction we have has had an impact on us.
And that leads me to the butterfly effect, right?
Yes.
That you share a smile with one person and you can start a chain reaction for up to like 25,000 people with one smile, right? So the more we can share that with others, whether it's a smile, whether it's a kindness, whether it's just compassion for what they're going through, holding space even.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. The beautiful thing in all of this is that no matter what we come up against, we can decide what we bring forward and how we impact moving forward. And I know that that's hard, and I'm not saying it's a walk in the park. It is, work.
It's the great work.
But yeah, but it is the work.
Mm-hmm. The self-work, the self-discovery, that healing path that we are all on, whether we realize it or not.
Right?
So welcome, those of you who are not aware. That's why the awakening is really just an awareness that, oh, I'm doing that too, am I? Okay. And stepping into it with intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back for a minute. There was something
Mm-hmm.
I had about, and then we kind of went somewhere else, and it just came back to me. So it
Yeah,
means
please.
I guess,
Please.
supposed to share it.
Yep.
But when I work with clients, a lot of times we talk about setting goals. And setting goals is valuable. And I'm not saying it's not. But sometimes we can get very self-defeating in our goal setting.
Yes.
And so I think that, some of the work that I've done with clients is instead of where I want to be, which is miles down the road, let's honor all of the things I've already accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so what ends up happening is we honor the successes each time, and then the next goal is just one little step more. Right? And it doesn't mean that other goal isn't there, but it's really easy to think of all that we haven't accomplished if we're constantly looking there.
Yeah.
Right? And then that impacts our self-worth, our value, how we feel we are able or competent to move forward. But if we're able to look at it,
sorry. Go ahead. I'll put it up in a sec.
You guys are killing me. But if we're able to look at all of the accomplishments along the way and honor that, then we build our worth as opposed to tearing it down.
Yeah, exactly. And that's celebrating those successes. Here's what we're laughing at, folks. So they're eating, and Jen's soothing voice put Jonathan and Rosie to sleep. We should do one of those, what are they called, ASMR videos?
Right? Start just putting meditations, sleep meditations up on YouTube. Oh, man.
That's awesome. Sweet dreams, you two. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that might be a good place to end today in terms of self-worth. Do you have anything that you want to sum up? whip.
Yeah. Well, I think what I said just brings it right back to the compassion piece.
Yeah.
Right? Self-compassion through the journey. We are worthy. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what our role is in this play. It doesn't matter what we perceive. We are worthy because we exist. And if we can honor that, then we can honor becoming who we're meant to be.
Yeah. Definitely. So you are worthy. We love you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sending you tons of love. We thank you all for joining us today for Twillow Talk. And we hope to see you again next week. I'm Tanis from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. And I'm joined by
Jennifer from Twillow Lifestyle and My Holistic Self-Counseling.
We wish you all a wonderful week full of love and light and self-care for self-worth. Lots of love, everyone.
It's a lot.
Have an awesome week.